Hey everyone, welcome back for another edition of Being Present in Real Estate. Today we're going to talk about why do agents write long periods of time, like 21 days, in the third party financing addendum for a 30-day contract. This idea was brought about from another agent, and which I'll give her a shout out in a little bit. But that's a great question. On a 30-day contract, you have a financing addendum for 21 days. So are they just trying to see if they can get away with it as a buyer's agent to have like an extra out? Or is it because they think the 21 days is needed? Like, is that what the lender is telling them? So is this standard or custom in our market or with contracts? These are things we're going to talk about. So, I am Danielle Shepard, host of Being Present in Real Estate. Thank you for tuning in today as we talk about financial contingency days of the third party financing addendum. Fun topic. So, let's kind of talk about it. I'm going to read y'all some text message between me and another agent. So, vendors are going to tell you that you need X amount of days. So we already know that if we deal with lenders like Navy Federal Credit Union or USAA or some of the big box lenders, then we have to have a longer financial contingency because they don't even start processing the paperwork until all paperwork is received. So we know that on certain lenders. But there's not really a standard, and this is a place in the contract that you can negotiate. So between me and this other agent, we were talking about, what do we put in that? And talking to a lot of other agents, because I did start talking to other people, they were like, oh, well, I put 14 days standard, or oh, I put 7 days standard, or I put. And my question is, why? If you know your lender, and if you know the lender your client uses, then you kind of could know what days to put in there. But you're not doing your client any favors if you say, oh, I always put 7 days. And then they come to you with a lender like Navy Fed, which you literally need the entire 30 days of their 45-day closing. So I'm not sure why that's a standard. And it can be seen kind of two different ways. So you can see it from the point of the buyer's agent, and then I also see it from the point of the listing agent and the sellers. So let's kind of dive into each part. But I'm gonna share this with y'all. So we were talking about standard. I think that's why they just don't understand what that really means from a seller's perspective. So when the buyer agent puts that. And I said, I put different days based on who my lender is and how far are we in the approval process. If I have someone that already comes to me approved literally for their loan, like they've turned in all of their financials, then I'm going to have a much shorter third party financing time because it's not needed, because then I can have a shorter contract. So I get that you're trying to protect your clients, but at the same time, is that really protecting them? So, I said, to me, seeing that it would mean they haven't gone through underwriting. So if somebody put a long time period in there, I would be like, they haven't gone through underwriting. They haven't submitted any of their documents yet, which we know there are some lenders that you can get pre-qualified for without submitting any documents. You don't have to do anything but verbal. There was a time, oh gosh, probably 4 years ago, that 4 or 5 years ago. Anyway, they pre-qualified themselves on this app of USAA. And When they pre-qualified themselves on this app, they answered all the questions right. We're 30 days into this contract, and like literally 2 days from closing. So maybe we were 35 days in because they had a longer closing. But anyway, we're 2 days from closing. Next thing we know, USAA pops up and says, "Oh, I'm sorry, but they did not pass underwriting because we discovered that there is child support that he is behind on." And you just discovered it 35 days in. That's a problem. Because now, for buyers and sellers, neither one of them are protected at that point. So she and I kept talking, and she's like, makes sense. 10 to 15 days. I tell buyers, submit all your documents, which you should be telling them that from the get-go. Like before you ever go into the pre-qualification process, you should tell them, look, you want to be pre-qualified? Go ahead and submit your documents. When you're getting that information together, go ahead and submit your documents because it's going to be a lot easier. And then she said, and just follow the lender instructions. Your lender can tell you how many days that you need for them to go through that approval process. So, and of course, some lenders are better than others with their pre-qualifications. Some of them will not give a pre-qualification until you've provided all of their documents. So, which then becomes a pre-approval. For example, Navy Fed. Navy Fed, in order to get a pre-qual from them, which is really a pre-approval from them, but in order to get that, you have to submit your documentation that proves your income, and they'll pull credit and all of that before they issue that. That helps a lot. So it really just puts earnest money on the line, whether it takes 10 or 21 days. So it's also a matter of how confident those clients are in their financial abilities. So on that third-party financing addendum, if someone comes, okay, I have a property right now that we're not closing for a while. On the third-party financing addendum, I mean, we're like literally like 75 days to closing. We got an offer and it on our listing, and they had put 55 days in there for third-party financing. I'm sorry, what? Like, to me, that means we could get 55 days in and they can't qualify and they're going to get their earnest money back. That's too long. I don't care if we have a 75-day closing. You can still get all of your qualification and your financial stuff done in 10 to 14 days or in 21 days or in whatever amount of days. But if you need 55 days to get your financing done, way too long. Way too long. That tells me you or your agent is not comfortable and not believing that you can be financed. Like, why do I need that long of a time? It's PCS season, so I understand having the 75 days to close, but 55 days for financing contingency? No. Now, some people will tell you, because I've had this conversation with some agents, they're like, oh, well, we need to wait till the appraisal comes in. That's a totally different section of the contract. So if you don't know that that's a totally different section of the contract, you need to read the contracts and talk to your broker. I'm always a fan of that. So she and I'll just tell you now, it's one of my favorite people ever from Coldwell Banker, Jeanette Harris. Jeanette Harris Rodriguez. So I just love her. she and I, and it's great to have this networking where you bounce things off of other people. I have that with her. I have it with other agents because we need to be able to say, hey, this has come up. This is kind of weird. What are your thoughts? You know, we do everything we can to protect our clients. So when I represent a seller and I am getting a third party financing addendum with this long day on there, I need to know why. And when I ask you why, don't come back with this answer of, oh, that's standard. I put that on everything. No, that's not how it works. Standard and customary tell me you did not talk to your client. Because then your answer should have been, oh, that's what my client is requesting. We talk about, in my agent etiquette class that we had last week, one of the things that was their pet peeves is agents answering for their clients. We're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to answer for your client. So when you have a standard or customary day in mind for third party financing addendum and how long it's going to take them to get approved, you're talking for your client. So you have to be very careful because even when you said, well, that's just standard and customary, really you should have said, well, that's what my client's requesting. Let's talk about this third party financing addendum a little bit. What all is involved in that third party financing addendum? Now, we know it's changed because people got some creative financing the last 3 years. And so they started doing the hard money loans and all that. So that's on there. So now you have section 1, which just talks about all the different lending types. Then you go into the next section, which talks about, does your client have to be approved for financing, or do you not have to have financial approval? Because some people don't. Some people do not have to have financing approval because they're already approved. Sometimes we get people who went under contract for a house, got their financial approval, and then the contract terminated. Well, they'll still have financing approval for the next house as long as everything's kind of the same. Always double check with the lender. But when we do that, do we necessarily have to still put that in there? Once again, up to your client. You explain the two different provisions in that third party financing addendum of, yes, I have to be approved, or no, I don't have to be approved. You explain what that means. Talking about interpreting, I don't need to interpret. I'm just explaining the verbiage that's there and let them decide which way do they want to go. Once again, customary is not our clients. Customary is us. That's our language. Us deciding what's customary. It's not how it's supposed to work. Your client is the one who is supposed to decide what they want to put in there for the approval. Now, after that two choices, the very next paragraph talks about the appraisal piece. It's separate from the financing approval. The house still has to appraise to where the lender will lend money. And then we even have another section just for FHA and VA that once again talk about the appraisal, that the house has to appraise at whatever value, which is the contract value. Then still, we have another piece of that financing addendum, which is another addendum really, but it's the right to terminate based on the lender's appraisal for any loan type other than FHA and VA. When we were doing these last couple of years, multiple offers, people were trying to use that lender's right to terminate for the appraisal addendum to do partial waivers of VA and FHA loans. Does not work that way. It specifically states on the paper not to be used for VA or FHA. Pretty easy. Can't use it. So, but it's for any other type of loan. It doesn't have to just be conventional. I see people all the time saying, oh, well, they have USDA, so it doesn't count. USDA can use that right to terminate based on lender's appraisal addendum. So any other loan type, hard money loan, reverse mortgage, any other loan product can use that form. So when we look at third-party financing addendum, there's lots of different components to it. And us as agents have to know what they mean. Having a lender that you can talk to is important. Having a lender that you can call is important. Because if your client doesn't know, well, I don't know how many days I need. Well, I don't know if I'm pre-qualified or pre-approved, or I sent them some stuff, but I don't really know. Because, this is a hard thing for people, especially your first-time home buyers. A lot of them don't know what they've provided and what they're missing because it's foreign to them. So having a lender that you can talk to is crucial, because then I can call the lender and says, hey, I know you gave me this pre-qual letter. We're getting ready to write an offer. I need to know how far they are in the pre-approval process, or how far they are in the approval process. Because on this third-party financing addendum, I want to best represent them, and I want to be able to let them know, to protect them, what I need to do. And then when I get that call from the listing agent who says, hey, you asked for X amount of days, what's the story there? I can let them know, well, I talked to the lender. The lender told me this. So this is what we did. Talking to other people is crucial in real estate. Having good conversations, kind conversations are important, not just with your clients, but with the other people in the transaction. You need to have good relationships with lenders because they're the ones that give you information. It's pretty easy. We're all working together for the same common goal. So when we look at third-party financing addendums, don't just do what's customary or take for granted or whatever you normally do. Don't do that. Look at your individual client as an individual, not as the group of clients that you have, but they are individuals. Talk to them about what their needs are in the transaction based on the lender. You don't take offers without a pre-qualification letter. So you already have the lender's information. As a buyer's agent, you don't write an offer without a pre-qualification letter. So you've got to take all of that into consideration. So let's get away from what is customary, what is expected, what you normally do. Because we need to look at each client as an individual and meet their individual needs on that third party financing addendum, whether you're on the buyer side or the seller side. It's the same kind of conversation, just opposite ends. Be able to answer that question when someone says, well, why are you asking for 55 days? Be able to answer that question. Be able to answer the question, why are you asking for 21 days or 14 days? Well, I just always write that down. No. Be able to answer the question. I talked to the lender and this is what they need. Or I talked to my client and they're needing some time to get paperwork together and this is what they need. Working together in a transaction is key. So, but as always, be kind. Thank you for joining me on this journey today about third party financing addendum. Thank you, Jeanette Harris Rodriguez, for bringing this to the forefront for me to talk about and asking me to talk about it. I appreciate that. Going forward, always be present in real estate, always be kind. No matter what, be kind. No matter how hard it is, be kind. So be present in real estate, be kind. You guys have a great week. And next week, I don't know what our topic's going to be yet. I'm sure somebody will message me about something. So stay tuned. Like and follow for more. Check us out on all of the Spotify and Buzzsprout and iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, you name it. I am on that podcast. If you can find me, let me know. I will send you the link. So have a great week and we will see you soon. Take care.